Hi everybody! Welcome to week 15 of our English 3010 online course. Man, we made it! It's our last week of class. I'm so proud of you all for all of the hard and diligent work you've been doing this semester and how you have been growing in your writing and researching, reading, peer reviewing, and even in your reflecting. It's really awesome to see. I'm proud of each and every one of you. In this week's video, I'd like to go over a few things. First of all, I want to go over some of the nuts and bolts for this last week of class. Second of all, I want to look over Project 5, our final project. And the last thing I want to do is take a look at this week's activities. All right, so first let's talk about the nuts and bolts. Two main things that I wanted to make you guys aware of. First thing is that I request and need you to please fill out your online student evaluations of teaching. Those should be released this week if they haven't already been released to you. Keep your eye out for the email for the student evaluations of my teaching. This is a really important and valuable thing for me as a teacher because I get to hear from you, students, and understand what things are going well in terms of my teaching in this course and what things maybe need to be worked on a little bit. The scores are important. They get put in a portfolio for my annual review materials, but more interesting to me are the actual comments. So if you guys are able to and have time, I'd really covet some written feedback from you about this class. That's what I get to actually read through. So send that to me if you are able to this week, or at least before the end of the student evaluation period, which I believe goes through till next week. It might be till this Friday though, so double check. Make sure that you fill out your student evaluation of teaching. Okay, so that's one sort of housekeeping announcement thing. The second thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is, what was the second thing I wanted to talk to you guys about? Okay. Second thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, office hours and your peer mentor, Rayanne. So this week, I will be holding office hours as usual on Tuesday from noon to 2. But of course, if you want to talk with me via Skype, you can just email me to set up a Skype appointment. Pretty much any day except for Wednesday is great. The thing that I was going to say about Rayanne is that this is your last week to get feedback and help from her as your peer mentor, because on Friday, the Composition Learning Community concludes its semester's work. So after that is finals, the study day. We do not ask peer mentors to be on duty during finals. As you can imagine, that would be a little stressful for them probably. So this week, if you have any questions, it works out well since this is your last project and we don't have a final exam in this class. It's just Project 5. So if you have any questions for Rayanne, hit her up on GroupMe, shoot her an email, or of course you can email me. We're both going to be available to you as much as we can this week to get all the loose ends tied up and get all your questions answered to the best of our ability. Okay, I think that's all the nuts and bolts that I had to share with you guys. Now I'm going to take a couple of minutes and talk you through our Project 5 assignment. Okay, our final project. So I'm in the Project 5 assignment folder under Weekly Tasks and Assignments. And you'll notice from the title that this is in the genre of a letter. And it's a reflective letter, so this is probably not a super unfamiliar genre for you guys, especially if you've been taking composition classes here at Wayne State. You understand that we like to end our semester with some pretty thorough reflection about your growth, especially in the course learning outcomes that we laid out for English 3010. So I'll read through and kind of talk through the assignment here, and then I will give you guys a couple of pointers, I guess. So the introduction and rationale here, basically your goal is to reflect on your work And there's a couple of other sort of sub goals that come with that. But basically, what we're asking you to do is to think and write about your research and writing practices and learning, how you've learned more about writing, how you've learned more about research, and how you've integrated the two throughout this class. So there's some questions here that are kind of designed to kickstart your reflection. You can ask these to yourself to sort of prompt your writing. You do not have to answer all of them directly in your reflection letter. These initial questions are more for your brainstorming phase. Prior to this class, what did I know about writing and researching in my discipline or discourse community? When enrolling in this course, what did I want to learn about writing and researching in my discipline? What did I actually learn about writing and research in my discipline? And how have my own writing and researching practices changed throughout the semester? So as you can see, we're thinking back to before this class started, and even like right at the beginning of the class, what you wanted to learn, what you've learned throughout the semester, and how you've changed. So I just want to pause here to mention that if some of these questions sound familiar to you, it's because we've been reflecting on some of these things all semester long. You have some early reflection journals that record what you initially set out to learn, right? And along the way, we've been pausing to write reflection journals that are helping to record what was difficult, what was satisfying, how we overcame challenges in every project right along the way. So part of your brainstorming for this project might well be to go back through your reflection journals, read about your own journey throughout this course, which we have cleverly made you write down in the form of reflection journals. So beyond that, right, if you're just thinking like, oh man, honestly, Nicole, I half-assed those reflections. I didn't really write down anything useful, which probably none of you half-assed it, but like just in case. You might want to look back at some of your other assignments. Looking back at the reading blogs might help you think about how you've grown in your reading. Looking back at the different ways that we worked through sources and annotated them and recorded things for your research projects, for your lit review, for your project 4. Just kind of reviewing the materials that you have done in this course might help put you more in that headspace. Another thing that might help is to think back about what you contributed to the writing showcase and any conversations you had during the writing showcase that helped you think about how you've grown and what you've really learned in this class. Maybe me asking you doesn't really set off any bells or whistles in your head, but maybe you talked to one of the research librarians and it really crystallized for you what you actually learned in this class. That's part of what reflection is. The definition of reflection is to look back on, or to bend back on, actually, literally. And in writing, we think about reflecting as we look back on experiences that we've had and learning that we've done, challenges that we've overcome, and we articulate in writing some insight or something that we can take from that for a new purpose, for demonstrating our learning, or for helping us to do things differently, or to do things that worked the same moving ahead. So as you're getting ready to write this reflective letter, maybe take yourself through some of these brainstorming exercises, thinking through these questions, looking back on your reflection journals, or looking back on any of your materials from this class, including the showcase. Okay, so that's my pause. Unpause, and we will think about writing and research practices to include any of these following things. brainstorming, organizing pre-writing strategies, drafting, scaffolding, revising, narrowing topics, generating research questions. All of this stuff is part of the scholarly writing process or the research writing process. Navigating databases, selecting resources, reading strategies, practice with genres and discourse community standards, right? This stuff really came up for us in Project 1. We noticed it a lot in Project 2. We practiced doing it for ourselves in Projects 3 and 4. So all kinds of areas that we've touched on as we've done work in this class. You could write about any of them that really stand out strongly for you. Now, in order to effectively organize your letter, we want to use the course learning objectives or the course learning outcomes. So we're going to take a minute, I'm going to pause again to walk you through those course learning outcomes. You do not have to address every single subpoint in the course learning outcomes, but you do need to address at least one part of each of the 4 learning outcomes. Well, crap, Nicole. I don't remember what those outcomes are. Never fear. Here they are. So this is from our syllabus in this class. Your 4 learning outcomes for English 3010 are reading, writing, researching, and reflection, which, if you just take those single words, sound a lot like the outcomes for English 1020, but let's look a little closer. In terms of reading, we're analyzing genres from your discourse community, from your discipline or profession, including understanding the conventions of that discourse community, the audiences, the rhetorical situations, purposes, and strategies of the things that are written and the things that you read in your discourse community. Writing. Of course, we need to use a flexible writing process and varied technologies to produce texts that address the expectations, again, of those disciplinary discourse communities in terms of even the kinds of claims that are valued in your discourse community, evidence and research methods that are valued in your discourse community, organization, format, style, which all kind of get tied in with citations and publications within your discourse community, rhetorical situations, strategies. And so all of these things, in terms of your writing, you want to be drawing on an explicit understanding of the genres that are being composed, these research writing genres that we've been working on, or digital genres, as the case may be. In terms of research, students should be able to write research genres. Oh boy, that's like all we've done this semester. So hopefully you are able to write research genres by now. Use research methods, including secondary research and primary research methods. Conduct that research to produce an extended research project. So that includes projects 3 and 4. We did basically different parts of an extended research project there. And this is all relevant to your discourse community. And finally, reflection. Use reflection writing to describe developing knowledge about writing, especially in your discourse community, and about yourself as a writer, including your ability to monitor your own writing process. So once again, you don't have to hit every single subpoint under these learning outcomes, but you do need to include all 4 of them in your reflection letter. A good solid paragraph about each one, maybe a couple paragraphs if you feel so led. Okay, so finishing out, unpause. Of course, you want to spend some time brainstorming, pre-writing, maybe sketching an outline for yourself, rereading some of your past materials. Now, let's think about the rhetorical situation for this reflective letter. Remember the triangle of audience, purpose, and writer. Well, we know who the writer is. That's you. The audience is me. Now, This is really important and a key distinction because some of the genres we've written this semester, I am not the audience, right? I am not the audience for Project 1. That's a wide internet audience. I'm not the audience for Project 4. It's your professional discourse community. I am the audience for this project, so you can feel free to address things to me or use rhetorical appeals that you think will be persuasive in this rhetorical situation. Now, let's talk about your purpose. Your purpose here, of course, is to reflect, right? Look back on your work this semester. That's one purpose. Your second purpose, or a sub-purpose, like I mentioned earlier, is to demonstrate your learning. So it's one thing to look back and say, oh yeah, I did these things. But I just want to make a point here to say, please don't tell me all of the assignments that you've done and leave it there. I know the assignments you've done. I assign them to you. You do not have to summarize the course to me. In fact, please don't, because I know it very well. I made it. I want you to tell me something I don't know, that I cannot know unless you tell me, which is how you navigated those assignments, what you learned from those assignments, how you grew in the course learning outcomes by doing any of the given assignments of this course. I have no idea about any of that because you have to tell me. So that is a really key purpose in your rhetorical situation here. The last purpose kind of goes hand in hand with the demonstration of your learning, and that's provide evidence. Now, this is a move we've been working on all semester long, is that we've been making claims about literature and what is in the research, and we've been providing it with evidence, right? Citations. Here, you want to be able to point to your own work. Maybe you're going to give a quote from your own paper. Maybe you want to summarize an experience or a lesson or a week of work. Either way, you're drawing on your own really specific experiences in this course to make broader claims about your learning. Okay, so we've got reflect, look back on the semester and the work you've done, but don't stop there. Demonstrate your learning by showing evidence, making claims about what was challenging, what was awesome, how you grew, and give me specific pieces of evidence to support those claims. So those are your three main purposes here. I'm your audience, you're the writer. In terms of genre, you're definitely going to format this as a letter, but this should be still written in a formal academic tone, right? I am a scholar, you are a scholar. Let's keep with our practice of scholarly communication. And P.S. maintain the citation style of your discourse community. Just keep rolling with that. Get yourself in the habit to cite like breathing. You get to emphasize whatever specific skills, behaviors, learning, knowledge that you've gained, whatever you want to really talk about. But keep in mind, the objective is to demonstrate that you have grown in the course learning outcomes, along with reflecting and giving me evidence, right? So you definitely want to directly reference at least 2 projects. One must be Project 4. I mean, that makes sense, right? That's kind of like the crowning jewel of our semester. But you can also reference any informal writing that we've done in the course. Reflection journals, reading blogs. You can talk about videos. You can talk about the GroupMe chat, Rayanne's announcements. You can talk about the showcase. You can talk about project builders, peer review, any of that. Fair game to be specific pieces of evidence. And you need to have a clear main point, your goal. What did you learn? What did you achieve? How did you grow? Hone it all down to one key argument about your growth or achievement in English 3010. And number 3 kind of is going to segue us into the last portion of this video in terms of our week's activities, but workshop your paper. Make sure you get peer feedback. I am not requiring it, but I am encouraging it. So I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. For now, I'm going to open the week 15 activities folder. And we'll just go through this week's activities, our last week of class. Maybe if Blackboard decides to open the folder, we'll see. Maybe someday it'll be spring. Hopefully by the time finals are over, right? All right, week 15, our last week. Basically, this whole week, and only this week, is dedicated to Project 5. So it's not a long assignment. It's even not a whole terribly lot of writing, but it is quite important in terms of your learning and transitioning you into your next steps. So here's the schedule layout for this week. Aim to have a first draft by Wednesday. Some teachers say set a timer for an hour and 15 minutes or however long class would be, sort of like pretending like it's a final exam. I'm not going to require that of you, but I would suggest that you not labor too intensely over it. Just try to let everything kind of flow, spur of the moment, right? Stream of consciousness type of writing for the first draft. But then definitely reread it. Reread it at least to yourself. For extra credit, you can upload your draft to the discussion forum for peer review and give 2 classmates comments. Our last peer review. It's not required, but it is highly encouraged. Reread again. Make sure that you have specific evidence for each of your main points in your argument. Make sure you have some kind of structure. Do your signposting. Create yourself an outline that you then follow to structure this letter. Use all the skills that you've learned this semester about how to organize really complicated and scholarly writing tasks. And turn it all in by Sunday, midnight. Okay, I think that does it for our final video of the semester. Just a note about peer review, I just wanted to remind you guys that when you're giving peer review to each other, make sure that you are addressing all 3 orders of concern. Higher order concerns, which are like whole big picture stuff, thesis, genre conventions. Middle order concerns, which are like paragraph structure, transitions, organization, citation, use of evidence. And lower order concerns, which are punctuation, grammar, spelling, all of that stuff. I've been trying to be a little bit more judicious with the peer review points these last couple of projects. So you may have noticed if you got a couple points taken off for peer review, it was because for one reason or another you didn't hit all of the orders of concern that were asked for in that peer review. So for this extra credit peer review, let's shoot for the moon. All 3 orders of concern. Make sure you're giving each other really great feedback. I have to say, though, even as I'm like nitpicking and really pressing on these orders of concern things, so many of you have grown and developed so beautifully in your ability to give really substantial feedback to each other. I have seen almost across the board everybody's abilities in the feedback department blossom. You guys have really grown in your ability to give each other valuable feedback, which brings a tear to my teacher eye and makes my teacher heart glow with pride. So let's finish really strong with our final peer review. Okay, I think that's all I have for you guys. It has been a pleasure and a joy to be with you guys this semester and to be your teacher for English 3010 online. Feel free to shoot me an email or come see me during office hours this week. Otherwise, Good luck on your final project. Good luck on all your final exams, and I'll see you around. Bye.